Ready when you are. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Westborough Town Candidates Forum, sponsored by the Westborough Democratic Town Committee. My name is Nick Argento. Thank you to Westborough TV, our cable producers, Karen Henderson and Aidan Horgan. And thank you to our volunteers for assisting us tonight, Debbie Dasgupta, Kate Donahue, Lee Emery, Mitch Jitkin, Sue McAllis, Ravi Michaela, Jonathan Rappaport, Judith Tully, and Don Zenas. On behalf of all the people who organized tonight's forum, we want to especially thank Kate Donahue, who has previously hosted this event with great skill. Kate has worked behind the scenes to organize this year's forum. After Kate's election as a state representative last November, she thought it was best if someone new hosted the event, and that's how I arrived here. Finally, we want to thank everyone who's watching this forum tonight. We have a number of candidates for town office who want to speak about the position for which they're running. Tonight's format includes remarks from the candidates and responses to the questions. We will ask candidates questions submitted from residents in advance. The questions to be asked cover a variety of topics that are of the most general interest to the community. The Westborough Town Democratic Committee solicited questions for the candidate forum through an online portal for anyone who wanted to respond to the event. 3 members of the committee reviewed the submissions and developed forum questions based on the most frequently raised issues. The candidates did not receive the questions in advance. When a question is asked, each candidate will respond to the same question. We had 92 questions submitted. Here's the list of a topic tally. For school committee, we had 65 questions in total, and we separated them out into 5 topics. We break down this way: 41 about diversity, bias, and racism, 10 questions about emotional well-being of students and public health, 8 about curriculum, 4 about censorship, 2 about the budget. For library trustees, we had 14 questions separated into these 2 topics areas: 10 about diversity, bias, and racism, and then there were 6 other individually separated questions. For select board, we had 3 questions: 1 about the candidates' accomplishments to date, how to improve communications, and what programs would be advocated. And we had 1 question about the candidates' language fluency, reading habits, support of the library expansion, and cultural barriers to participation in town meetings for parents. For planning board, we had 2 questions incorporating these 2 topics: net zero building, high density condo and apartments, funding by developers to provide for additional resources for the Westborough Fire Department and Police Department, and a 50-year plan for new and renovated town buildings. For town clerk, we had 2 questions incorporating these topics: reservations about the laws in Massachusetts as they relate to equity, inclusion, and LGBTQ rights, and voting. Finally, a brief comment about public discourse. The town of Westborough has over a 300-year tradition of respectful participation in public discussion, debate, and discourse. We can agree and we can disagree with our neighbors, but always we do it respectfully. So it's the expectation that this will continue in this forum. We're very happy that you're watching, and we're honored that the candidates are here for this forum. So let's begin. For select board, there's 1 seat available for a 3-year term to the select board. We have 1 candidate who is an incumbent, Ian Johnson. So Ian, I'm going to invite you to turn your camera on and make a 2-minute statement. So Ian, when you're ready, welcome. Ian, can you turn your microphone on, please?
Sorry about that.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, and good evening, everyone. I want to thank the Democratic Town Committee and especially Kate Donahue, as Nick mentioned, for all that she has done to coordinate this over the years, including this year. And I appreciate the committee for providing a forum for candidates to speak and for residents to listen to what we have to say. While I know I'm running unopposed, I want everyone to know that I don't take this role for granted. I know I can learn more every day and will continue to work hard for each and every one of you. While we might not always agree on issues confronting Westborough, please know that I always do what I think is right for the town. There are a lot of things facing us here in Westborough today, and I'm excited to work on them with my fellow board members, as I truly value each one of them and think we work extremely well together as a board. Likewise, I look forward to working with our town manager and town leadership team and all of our town staff to provide the best service to our residents and our businesses in a cost-effective manner. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Ian. So our first question is this one. Given the disappearance of local media outlets, how can town government improve communication with residents about its activity?
It's a really good question. It's something that we've talked about a lot. I think having Westborough TV is just a great forum for us, and the ability and the work that they have done, and working with them to provide both live coverage of meetings and events, but also being able to kind of watch on demand is one way. I think as a town, we've really worked hard on improvements on the town's website, and we actually are coming to town meeting with a request to upgrade, because we haven't upgraded the town's website. I think the last was either 2016 or 2017. So that's another forum that we try to direct folks to. And our goal is to try to get as much information out there. So for example, in the select board meetings, it's not just posting agenda and posting minutes, but it's materials that we talk about, presentations that are provided to us. So really trying to be as transparent as possible and put materials out there is something that we're focused on and trying to get the information out. We do still have access through Community Advocate, and they do attend select board meetings. We do have it through other media outlets, Patch, Westborough Patch at times, but I think that's the way we're doing it, but we're always welcome for any comments or suggestions folks have of how we can do things better.
All right, thank you. Second question, can you please comment on how the select board can be most effective, how it can most effectively serve the culturally diverse population of the community?
Yeah, I think I think there's a number of ways that we can do that. I think similar to what we've done with or other departments in town have done, the library, police, fire, I think are great examples of kind of going out and meeting residents where they are, trying to kind of encourage conversations with residents, teach residents as much as we can about what we do and how we do it. One of the things that, if folks remember, with our prior town manager, we had a program that we put in place called a Citizens Leadership Academy. And really what it was a forum where we basically put together a curriculum, probably the best word for it, of kind of all the various town departments, and invited any resident that wanted to attend to come and basically learn about kind of how the town worked, who the town departments were, and really a kind of an educational session we tried to make as informative, but also as fun. It was, we didn't give any tests, but it really was a forum to try to reach out to folks and provide them more information about who we are, to kind of better educate them, answer questions that they have, help them understand the unique form of government that we have compared to some others they might be familiar with, whether it's other places in the US, other countries, et cetera. So I think that's another a forum to do, and it's something that we've been working with our town manager, and in fact is one of her goals right now.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the planning board. So Hazel Nourse is running for a one-year term on planning board. Hazel was unable to attend tonight. There is one seat for a two-year term to fill a vacancy to the planning board. And we have one candidate, and his name is John Gelcich. So John, I'm going to invite you to make a 2-minute statement, and welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Good evening, Westborough. My name is John Gelcich, and I'm running for the two-year term for the planning board seat I was appointed to in the middle of 2022. I want to say thank you to all of you out there watching for being an active participant in our local government. I would like to encourage anyone who is interested in serving our community through the various boards and committees to jump in with both feet. We always need the time, talents, and personal experience of engaged neighbors to continue making Westborough a wonderful, caring, and neighborly community. I am a professional planner by trade and training, having earned my master's degree in urban and regional planning from Virginia Tech, currently serving as the principal planner in Hopkinton. My day-to-day responsibilities include being staff support to the planning board in Hopkinton, so I'm well versed in the technical, legal, and administrative aspects of planning. My focus, should I be elected to serve on the planning board, can be summed up with 3 words: community, sustainability, and resiliency. First, I believe that we need to embrace and create new opportunities that allow us to continue building a sense of community in town. We all choose to move to or stay in Westborough for a reason. For me, it was the chance to be part of this community of neighbors. I will work to make this community we share as vibrant and welcoming to others as it has been to me and my family. Second, I will work with the other members of the planning board to ensure that all developments proposed before the planning board will help rather than hinder our efforts to make Westborough more sustainable with respect to our natural environment, economic health, and well-being of our neighbors. Finally, I will work with my fellow planning board members to ensure that Westborough is resilient in the face of future challenges and will remain strong no matter what issues may arise. I believe this can be achieved through diversification of development, focused planning initiatives, and enhancing our stock of protected open spaces. I look forward to the opportunity of working with all of you as neighbors and stewards of this community we love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the question we have for you is this: what are your thoughts on net zero buildings as a standard for the town of Westborough?
So generally I support the net zero effort. I don't know if that would be something that could be achievable as a standard for buildings. That's a pretty high bar to reach, but if we can work towards that goal, I think that would be a very good goal to try and reach at some point.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to send you the second question just so you can see it. Second question is this, John: do you support more high-density development in town? And what requirements would you place on these building projects to mitigate town expenses?
That's a involved question. So in certain situations, yes, I would support high density development. Those developments need to be focused around transportation and existing areas that support that type of enhanced development. In terms of requirements you can place on building projects, that's kind of a individualized type of question, depending on where the structures or the development would take place and what kind of development it is. We always look for mitigation for stormwater, traffic. We look and try and see what those impacts are going to be based on that type of development, and generally try and require mitigation for those specific projects based on how they would impact the area that they're proposed for.
All right, thank you, John.
Thank you.
So we're gonna move on now to the school committee. Now we have contested seats for school committee and for the library trustees. We randomized the order for the opening statements and then tried to alternate the order of respondents to the questions. So we have 3 candidates for 2 seats in the school committee. These are for 3-year terms for each seat. So 3 candidates for 2 seats. Everyone's on the ballot, and the candidates for the school committee are Paula Mathieu, Jakub Moskal, and Sarah Shamsuddin. So Sarah, I'm going to invite you to give the first statement, then we'll be followed by Paula and then Jakub. So when you're ready, Sarah, we'll begin. So Sarah, welcome.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you to Kate. I want to echo that thank you so much for having this forum for us so we can get to meet everyone. I want to also thank the other 2 candidates for joining me in the forum to allow voters to hear from us directly. As you know, my name is Sarah Shamsuddin. I have 3 children in the Westborough Public Schools, and I'm honored to be here tonight as a candidate for the school committee. I believe I'm the right candidate for this position, and I want to explain why. First and foremost, I am deeply committed to education. I believe that education is the foundation of our society, and I come from a family of many teachers and administrators, which helps me to understand the challenges teachers, students, and parents face. I also have extensive experience in leadership roles in the education sector. I've served on executive committees at a private school, managed budgets for the PTA at the school, and fundraised. This was integral because enrichment programs were privately funded rather than depending on school financing in the school. I've helped advance enrichment programs for our children and coached teams for STEM programs, bringing them to national level of competition. I have a thorough understanding of issues facing our schools, and I'm confident that I will be able to help our community find creative solutions to face these challenges. Additionally, my legal background, I believe, is an asset for the Westborough Public Schools. My legal skill set enables me to serve on various subcommittees, including contract negotiations relating to vendors and employees. Both due to my profession and personally, I am committed to transparency and accountability. I believe that the school committee must be transparent in its decision-making processes and accountable to the community that it serves. I will work tirelessly to ensure that our public schools are run in a way that is ethical and responsible. I believe that part of effective leadership begins with listening to concerns of others and working collaboratively to address those concerns. As a school committee member, I will be accessible and responsive to the needs of parents, teachers, and students. In conclusion, okay.
All right, we're a little over time. Thank you. And I'm going to invite, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Paula Mathieu to go next. Go ahead, Paula.
Good evening, everyone. When I say it's all about the children, I mean it's all about the children. It always has been for me, and that is why I became an educator. I received an associate's degree in nursery education. Then, after pursuing a BA degree in English and raising 2 children, I obtained certification as a high school English teacher. I worked as a teacher assistant in special education. I taught both English and history in a private school. I taught journalism, creative writing, freshman and senior English at Northbridge High School. In collaboration with the history department there, I developed curriculum and co-taught a humanities class for at-risk students. I was a virtual high school instructor, the advisor to the literary magazine, organized and conducted poetry slams and poetry contests, and I was a department chair. I loved teaching, but most of all, I loved working with the children. And that is why I want to take an active role in Westborough to assess programs and policies that ensure a quality education, that develop critical thinking skills, and that focuses on academics. Not only do I come here this evening with the perspective of a teacher, but I come here with the perspective of a parent who has a strong belief in the family unit. Given the last few years, our children need healing and community now more than ever before. What better way to ensure this than by working together, by upholding individual family values, which instills in them a sense of self-worth and belonging, and by giving them a quality, well-rounded education that inspires confidence and provides them with tools to become successful members of society, lifelong learners, and critical thinkers. I am not alone. I am the voice of many parents who love this town and who value education, but who are concerned with the direction education is taking their children, the focus no longer seeming to be on academic excellence. And so I have a vision a vision that unites us for all the sake of our children, where we can show them what a community is all about as we work together to develop programs and policies that encourage healthy attitudes, that models empathy and compassion for all, and that seeks to challenge them academically. It is
Paula,
time
thank you.
to thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're over time. Thank you. So Jakub, you're next. Please, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for hosting me here, and very impressive resumes from my candidates here. Well, let me first start by saying why I'm running for this position, because I think this is really important for me to convey to the community. I have 3 sons who are enrolled in the Westborough school system, and the youngest one was diagnosed with as hard of hearing and was placed out of district for over 3 years. And I cannot say enough how much our town has supported us, my family, and my son, who has now transitioned to Armstrong and is very successful. And I have a great sense of gratitude towards the town, and I find this opportunity here to serve on the board as a way of saying thank you to the town and to the people of Westborough who indirectly supported my son on his journey. I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody for that. Education has always been a big theme in my life. I was born in Poland when it was still communist country. Then I moved. Then I got my early education while it was post-communist, and we were taught from early on how important was education and free speech and building a democratic society. Then I moved to US to pursue a doctorate degree in computer engineering. A couple of years later, once I married my wife, Elena, we moved to Westborough, and purely based on the school rankings. We actually did not know anybody in the town. So education has always been a big theme in my life, and I hope to bring my professional expertise into the board. I think with the rise of technologies that are challenging education, it's important to have a voice on a board that understands how these technologies affect our life today and the job market in the future. I also do have experience from the parents' perspective about the IEP process. I do understand the bilingual perspective of a lot of students in our town. And I believe I do have a lot of empathy for those different families who need to be supported by the Westborough School District.
All right, thank you very much. So when we go to, now we're going to go to the questions and to the candidates. I posted the first question in the chat, and the order we're going to use for this first question, we're going to go to Paula, then Jakub, then Sarah. And then for the second question, we'll go Jakub, Sarah, Paula. And then for the third question, we'll go Sarah, Paula, Jakub. So we're just trying to alternate a bit. So the first question is this: Westborough is a diverse community that is reflected by the students in our schools. Which populations do you recognize as representing diversity? And as a school committee member, which actions would you support to best serve all of our learners? So we'll start in each person. So Paula, you'll have 2 minutes when you start to speak, and then Jakub, you'd have the same, and then Sarah. So Paula, when you're ready, please.
Well, the first part is Westborough is a diverse community, and this is reflected by our students in our school. So which populations do you recognize that represent the diversity? I would say we are all part of that population. We're all diverse. We all have things to bring to the table. We all celebrate each other and our differences. I guess I'm not quite sure. I'm sorry, I'm hesitating, but I'm not sure what it means when you say, what actions would you support to best serve all of our learners? I would take whatever is needed for our children, whatever they need. We work together, find out what those needs are. We come together and we put them in place. I guess I'm struggling a little bit with what they're actually looking for in this question.
Okay, all right. And as I say, we receive these questions from residents. Yeah. Okay. So you have time if you want to continue, but if you'd like to.
I don't know how to answer it other than, I mean, we are a diverse society. There's no doubt about that. And we all bring things that are important and we can celebrate. So I guess I'm struggling with what they want from me in that respect. Sorry.
All right. No, thank you. We'll go to Jakub. Jakub, when you're ready. And-
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you very much.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. Well, I believe a lot of people in our town do not realize that the demographics of the schools is quite different from the demographics of our town. At this point, we have nearly 50% of our students are not white, and they come from a variety of backgrounds. We have people from all over the world. Actually, just this year, 536 students joined since August 31st. Joined the Westborough school system. A lot of them came from other countries, and this is the reality. Our schools have to provide education to every kid that is part of the district. And I think Westborough has done a tremendous job in providing services to those kids and reaching out to the families where parents, for instance, do not speak the language. They use modern tools that provide automatic translation. They provide different social events to expose other members of the community to those different backgrounds. I myself come from a different country, so I guess my children, by that connection, represent some kind of diversity as well. My son, being hard of hearing, also represents a different group of kids, and I cannot say enough how well the town has been supporting them. From my own experience as a soccer coach for several years, I would love to help. In particular, different groups of kids that I see that would love to join town sports, town teams, but they don't have means to do it. The parents do not speak the language. They're not connected with the community. It's not always easy to organize transportation for them to different sport events. And if there's any way on the board that I could get an initiative going to help those kids, I would love to do that. I think this is something that could enrich the way Westborough is responding to the changing demographics of our schools.
All right, thank you. Sarah, it's your turn. When
Hi
you're
again.
ready.
So I want to echo what Jakub was saying. I completely agree. We are an extremely diverse town. I recently learned that we're actually in the school population about 51% non-white, which was actually quite surprising to me, but it's amazing. I think that our school systems, the school committee, Amber, have done an amazing job in trying to promote inclusivity. I see it in the emails that come from the schools, the recognition of all the different holidays, the subcommittee that I'm aware of that was put together specifically to address calendar dates that would be recognizing student holidays and how those holidays are celebrated and how they should be dealt with in the schools as far as whether homework should be issued or not, and tests, etc. So I am thrilled personally, being a minority myself, with how the school system and how the Amber and her team have been working to promote this inclusivity and to make no child feel left behind in any regard, especially when it comes to the cultural diversity. So, I would just like to continue to build upon that.
All right, thank you. And now we're going to go to the second question. It's in the chat. So again, the candidates, you're welcome to read this along with me. And this question was submitted. Oh, so let me just mention. So this time, Jakub, you will go first, Sarah will go second, and then Paula will go third. So this question was submitted by a Westborough High School student, and the student wrote, quote, "As a 10th grader, I see kids who don't belong and never get included. What are you, as a new school committee member, going to do to make sure people feel like they belong? A lot of people talk about belonging, but the same people seem to get excluded. How do I know you care about inclusion and not just like kindness? As a member of the school board, how would you address this question? And more broadly, oh, excuse me, that's the quote. That's the end of the quotation. How do I know you care about inclusion and not just words like kindness? So that's the end of the quote. As a member of the school board, how would you address this question? And more broadly, how would you recommend supporting the emotional and mental health of our learners? So again, we'll start with Jakub.
Yes, I mean, I think it's hard to answer this question on on a broad level, because I imagine a lot of these problems are case by case specific. And I do believe that our schools are helping our students in a lot of ways, especially after COVID, with the social emotional learning that's now occurring in the classrooms. For all the students, we have guidance counselors working with teachers that with the students that need additional help. I do believe that Westborough is fostering a sense of inclusiveness to all the students. I think perhaps one way to encourage to help those kids who feel excluded from the community is to organize additional activities, after school activities. And I believe this is happening more and more right now as we are recovering from COVID. I see, for instance, at Mill Pond, they're organizing a variety of clubs, and perhaps students that feel excluded will feel more connected if they can find other students with similar interests and activities. And yeah, I think that's what I would add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Sarah, you're next. Welcome.
I think that this is sort of a challenging question to answer, in that I think it would be dealt on a case-by-case basis, depending on what the situation is with the child. Obviously, I believe that our educators and the curriculum and everything that is being done in the schools is trying to foster an environment of inclusiveness. I do think that, I know that when one of my daughters just recently joined Mill Pond, this is her first year there, and they had started out with having lunches, at the lunch table. She was sitting in a classroom setting, so that she was not having to feel as though she didn't have any friends coming into the school. And I think they do that obviously on purpose, so that the children don't feel excluded. Additionally, they would have separate lunches for the new kids so that they could meet one another and get to know each other's challenges. So I think that efforts are being made in that regard. I think that even, whether it's in the high school or in the middle school or in the elementary, we're going to be facing that as a challenge. Obviously, there's the issue of bullying that we need to address on a case-by-case basis. So, when you say exclusion, or when this child is talking about that, I think I'd need to know more information about what it is that they're facing in order to come up with a comprehensive plan to address it.
All right, thank you. Paula, you're welcome to respond.
Yes. So I guess I would say that it's time to celebrate our differences and not point out and not point them out, what the differences are. And I am aware of the bullying and the exclusion that's going on. And I would bring in programs. I would like to see programs of team building. I can't help but think that some of the programs that are being implemented are actually encouraging division. I would want to assess that. I would want to talk to the students. I would want to talk to the parents and the teachers to get their perspective on some of these programs, if they think they're actually doing what they say they're going to do, or are they actually causing the division. I hope that answers it, but I do care very much, and that's what it's all about, is getting those children to be happy, productive adults. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Paula. All right, so folks, we're going to go to the third question, and when you respond this time, I'm going to ask Sarah to go first, Paula second, and Jakub to go third. Okay. Also, so when you go to respond to the question, this will also be your last opportunity to speak. So if you want to weave in a closing statement of some sort, you can do that within the 2 minutes also. All right. Does that all make everybody good on that? Okay. Yeah. All right, so here, and the questions in the chat. So public education systems across the country are making decisions about whether certain topics should or should not be taught in schools. And these most commonly include the history of racism in America and LGBTQ+ related issues. How should the Westborough School Committee best handle this? Would you support prohibiting teachers from these types of discussions? Should particular books or other educational materials be banned? So we're going to start with Sarah, and then again go to Paula, and then to Jakub. Okay? So Sarah, when you're ready.
So I'm going to sort of answer this backwards. I think that the question about whether certain books or education materials be banned, I think that's a very broad sort of, assumption that there are books that need to be banned. I'd have to see a book that's trying to indoctrinate my child with some sort of idea of going one way or another in any policy form that would make me, that would sway me to say, okay, I think that this book would need to be removed. I think that we fail to understand that part of being a diverse community is not just about our race. It's about all of our the differences that, Paula just mentioned that we should be celebrating. And I think that part of that is, there are going to be race, gender, and these types of issues, and to try and escape that, or to believe that we're going to be able to, that it's not going to come into the classroom and we're not going to have to address it, I think is not only naive of us, but I also think that it's going to prevent us from building, good, upstanding citizens going out of our school system, because I think that we're not just educating them. Well, I feel that, academic excellence is number one and should always be number one. It's together with building of character, it's character building. And I think that these topics, while I don't obviously would never believe, and that would be for anything, I don't think that anyone should be teaching my child, something religious. I don't think that's within their purview or touching those issues anyways. But I think that if a child feels safe enough to have a discussion with a teacher, or if that teacher is able to convey information in a way that makes a child feel welcome, then I don't see any, negative side to that.
Okay, thank you. And now we go to Paula. Paula, please.
Yes, I would agree with Statter. I would start with the bottom one. I'm an English teacher. I don't believe in banning books, but I also believe that books should be age appropriate. And so there are some books I've been understanding that maybe are not age appropriate. So I would like to look into that a little bit. The Westborough School Committee best handle this? Well, I believe that teachers teach academics and parents teach values. So I guess I would say that when it comes to the values, when it comes to like the sex education and I can't even think. I'm not really good about these quick questions here, but I think that they should stay at home. The parents are responsible for that. And then the teachers teach the academics, starting with the basics, and have a good foundation so that they can become good, productive adults. Did I cover everything? Racism? Well, Morgan Freeman answered that question about combating racism. He said, stop talking about it. And I have to echo that sentiment. Again, we are a diverse community. I do not believe that we have a problem in this town with racism. I believe, however, we will if we continue labeling our children as privileged or oppressed. And under the same umbrella is the social emotional learning standards. I think it's time to assess the impact on our students' population and to see if there's something better to offer, one that encourages healthy attitudes as well as empathy and compassion for all without marginalizing anyone. Thank you.
All right, Paula, thank you. Jakub, when you're ready.
Yes, thank you. I think this is a good question. I think it touches on wider topics, not just racism and LGBTQ plus community. I strongly believe myself that education should foster, that educational environment should foster debate. It should foster different perspectives, open debate, and education should respond to what's happening outside the classrooms as well. I think there's a national debate about these issues right now, and whether we want it or not, this is part of our life. This is part of our children's lives as well. They sooner or later, these are the topics that they will be discussing, or they are discussing already. And I think schools should have a say and should provide opportunity for children to wrestle with all these topics. I'm growing up in a post-communist country, I'm strongly against banning any kind of text. I think we should allow speakers who have vehemently opposite views to ours to speak so that we can debate with them, so we can wrestle with our own perspective. I do agree with Paula that, of course, books should be age appropriate. I do not have a reason to believe Westborough is not falling into that category. But in general, my approach to education is that it has to be responsive to what's happening in society, and we should always welcome a discussion and debate, whether it's not comfortable or not. Since I have a chance to give a closing statement, I have a few seconds. I just want to say thank you, everybody who supports me, who offered to put a sign on the yard, all the kind words of support. I am overwhelmed with this. I did not expect this kind of turnout. I do hope that I'll be given a chance to serve on this board. It will be a great opportunity for me to say thank you for the amount of support that the Westborough has done to me. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank the three of you for sticking to the time parameters and with the thick and thorny questions. So I really appreciate it. And I know on behalf of the community, we appreciate it. So thank you very much. You can now all breathe and relax. We're going to move on to the town clerk position. And so thank you very much for that. So there's one seat. So Debbie Ledoux is running for town clerk. Debbie, I'm going to ask you to turn your camera on. There's one seat available for a 3-year term as town clerk. And so Debbie, I welcome you, and you have 2 minutes to make an opening statement when you're ready.
Hi, Nick. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Kate, and also the Democratic Town Committee. I appreciate it. My name is Debbie Ledoux. I am currently your acting town clerk. I served as your assistant town clerk for 9 years under Wendy Mickle. I watched, listened, and learned under Wendy. My primary job as assistant town clerk was voter registrations, vital records such as processing all of our births, marriages and deaths in town, fuel storage, business certificates, and so many other things. We do an awful lot in the town clerk's office. Elections is something now that I'm going to be overseeing. We're right in the middle of the town election coming up in another week and a half, getting ready for that. I feel like I'm ready for this challenge, and I love our town. I'm a graduate of Westborough High School. My grandfather was born here. My great-grandfather was a superintendent of a factory over on Milk Street. I'm passionate about being here. I'm looking forward to preserving our records, working for our residents, being here as a friendly office and friendly faces, and welcoming everybody in anytime. And I'm happy to answer any questions, Nick.
Thank you, Debbie. So our first question is this. Do you have any reservations about following Massachusetts state law as it relates to equity, inclusion, and LGBTQ+ rights? And when you're ready, you're welcome to answer that.
No, I mean, I follow the law. My background is I went to college to be a paralegal and worked in a law firm, and following the law and helping our residents and looking out for our residents will always happen in this office, and it will always happen with me. And if there's ever any concerns, I encourage the residents or anybody to come see me, speak to me. I'll always make time to answer any questions, but the law will be followed in our office.
All right, thank you. And the second question is this. Please discuss your thoughts on vote by mail and early voting. And again, when you're ready.
So when I started in this office in 2014, there was one way to vote, and that was in person. If you couldn't go in person, there's always been the absentee option. vote by mail, vote in person. It's really morphed into, it's almost like a business. We're a 3-person office. It definitely puts a lot more pressure on our office. You have to be very careful about who ballots are going to, timeliness of mailing ballots, taking ballots back in. It adds to, it went from a 1-day election to, month-long elections. It's also vote by mail, but we also have Yookava, overseas, military. We've got our permanently disabled, like I said, absentee, day of, early voting in person. The whole elections has become a huge part of our job in here. But our office does a terrific job, and we do the best we can keeping up with everything and the changes of laws and what's coming down in the future. Looking forward to next year. It's a presidential year. We've got 4 elections next year, local, and then presidential primary, state election next year is going to be huge for our office. So I'm hoping to get a good assistant town clerk in here and keep moving forward.
All right, very good. Thank you, very much, Debbie. Thank you very much for coming on tonight, and thank you for speaking. We're going to, yeah, thank you. We're going to move on to the town moderator. So this is one position. It's a 3-year term. So John Arnold is an incumbent and a candidate for re-election to a 3-year term. John is unable to attend tonight, but he's submitted a video commentary that I'm going to ask Aiden to play that right now. So when you're ready.
Hi, I'm John Arnold of 251 West Main Street. I'd like to thank you for your interest in the town election, and thanks to the Democratic Town Committee and everyone who organized tonight's candidates night. I've been moderator for 9 years, and I'm asking for your vote for another term. My main responsibility, as you may know, is to run town meeting, Westborough's legislative body. I strive to make town meetings more effective and efficient, and before, during, and after town meetings, I try to help every voter be the best they can at being a citizen legislator. During my 9 years as moderator so far, I think I've done a good job and have helped the town navigate through some challenging times. They haven't been perfect, and I haven't been perfect, but I always strive to do better, I always try to improve, and I try to be responsive to questions and constructive criticism along the way. I continue to work with people to make sure every voter feels welcome and to be able to contribute to the town's self-government. Another key responsibility I have is appointing the Advisory Finance Committee and some other committees. I'm committed to helping people who are interested in being more involved in town find a place that works for them. So if you're interested, please feel free to contact me at moderator@town.westborough.ma.us. Thank you for considering me when you vote on March 14th, and I hope to see you at the annual town meeting on March 25th. Thank you.
So there we go. So John Arnold, who is a candidate for, he's an incumbent running again for town moderator, and he's running unopposed. We're going to turn to the library trustees, and there are 6 candidates but for library trustee, there is a 1-year open seat, and then there are 3 3-year seats. So we're going to have the candidates for the 1-year seat speak first, and we have 2 candidates for this 1-year seat. We have Jeanine Mindrum and Ciaran O'Donnell. Both are on the ballot, and they're here this evening. So each candidate will have an opportunity to speak for up to 2 minutes. And I'm going to invite Jeanine to speak first, and then we'll go to Ciaran. So Ciaran, if you could also turn your camera on, that would be great. All right. So Jeanine, when you're ready, welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Kate. I've lived in Westborough for many years, and I've been very happy here. I'm a speech pathologist, and I've worked in early intervention with children under the age of 3 for 35 years. I specialize in working with autistic toddlers and their parents. I'm participating in this election because I love the library and I want to support it in any way that I can. It's a valuable resource for our community and for me. I depend on the library for the many, many books that I read and the staff to answer my questions and help me find resources. And the library provided many important supports during the pandemic. So once it became safe, they created the system where we could drive up and pick up books under the little tent in front of the library. And that was a lifeline for many, many people in the community. In fact, and for me, when I saw that many of the countries around the world were going into lockdown, I went straight to the library and checked out 30 books because I couldn't foresee having a lockdown without books. I'm very interested in finding ways to support the library in ways that can receive support from our town. And I'd like us to find new ways to connect with residents so we can work as a team to plan and carry out new ventures for the library. When I was collecting signatures, people suggested to me that they would really like to have members of the board come to the senior center on a regular basis. And so I mentioned that a month ago when I went to the board meeting, and it's already happening. In March 7th, we're going to start having this on the senior schedule. So I'm excited about finding out what other groups in town might like to have us come and talk and find out what their opinions are, what their ideas are, and learn more about what we can do together.
All right, thank you, Jeanine. Ciaran, you're welcome to make your opening statement, and off you go when you're ready.
Yeah. Do I have to do something?
Nope, we can hear you, so you can begin when you're ready.
Yeah, so my name is Ciaran O'Donnell, and this is actually the second time that I've run for the library board. So why am I running for the library board? Well, one thing you should know about me is I've always been interested in politics, and we'll talk about that a little later. And I had previously, after I got my US citizenship, ran for city councilor. And after that, I realized that you had to start at the bottom and for the voters to see if you were doing a good job, so you could move up. And I don't have children in the school system, and I'm not particularly interested in planning, and I am interested in libraries. I've gotten a lot out of libraries all my life. Now, what do I think? Okay, I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I've lived in 4 countries and 2 states in this country. So I've moved a lot of times, and that's kind of a strange thing in my life because I think it was 2 times the move was because of a personal, like it's my father telling me to move, or it was an incident in my personal life that basically made me make a decision. And then 2 times it was basically an offer that came on a silver platter. I believe that the library can do a lot. We basically have to get into the 21st century. We have, if I am elected, I would like to start as a grunt, doing the best I can. And finally, I would like just to clarify the situation for everybody that I did vote no.
All right, thank you, Ciaran. So now we're going to turn to our questions, and Ciaran, we'll go Ciaran and then Jeanine. The questions in the chat, if you want to see it, I'm going to read it's really 3 questions, and I'll say them, and then Ciaran will have you go first, and then we'll have Jeanine go second. So here they are. How would you protect access to information at a time where some library collections are being censored? What types of books should be available? Should certain books be removed or banned? Should books and materials focusing on LGBTQ+ issues or racism receive special protection? Why or why not? So Ciaran, when you're ready, we'll ask you to go first, and then Jeanine to follow, and then on the second question, Jeanine will go, and then Ciaran. So you have 2 minutes each for these questions, okay?
So I just have to answer the first part. How would I protect that access when they're being censored? Is that right?
Yes. Well, you can answer all 3 when you're ready. Whichever ones you want to answer, but those are the questions.
Okay, I'll answer the first question. How much time do I have? That's my question.
You'll have 2 minutes. We started the clock. We'll make sure you have 2 minutes.
Well, I'm looking at these questions and all three are about censorship. And I'm not a big believer in censorship, but I'm not also a big believer that that is a problem in Massachusetts. It used to be a problem. Plays used to be banned in Massachusetts in the 19th century. But Massachusetts is quite a liberal state. Now, if it's going on somewhere else, you know, I believe that politics is local and that we have to focus on what's going on here. So if I look at the questions, how would you protect access? Well, I mean, maybe if there's a complaint about a book, the director looks at it and either rejects it or accepts or passes it on to the school trustees, and they either accept it or reject it. What types of books should be available? All types of books should be available. Science books, all kinds of books. Books about a religion. I mean, if you go to the library, there are two great books. One is about a Jewish woman who escaped the Holocaust by marrying a Nazi soldier. And another woman is a biography of the Prophet Muhammad, which is really the sort of thing you don't usually find. Should books focusing on LGBT issues receive special protection? No books should receive special protection. Because if you give books special protection, you're orienting people in one way or choice. So is that, will I have more time after or no?
You have another 15 seconds because we discussed the questions to start. So I'll give you another 15 seconds if you have more you want to say.
Okay. So I'm running for this because it's a time in my life where I think God wants me to do it. I'm also running because I've become more involved in town politics and because I believe that there should be a diversity of views, political views, I mean, in the town.
All right. Thank you. So Jeanine, when you're ready, thank you, Ciaran. Jeanine, when you're ready, you can begin.
Okay. Well, I would urge the library to respect people's First Amendment rights to have access to information about ideas and opinions on both sides of every issue. And when I went to the American Library Association website, they said that a library needs to defend the constitutional rights of all individuals to use the library's resources and services. So I think, as Ciaran said, I don't see what types of books wouldn't be available. I think everything that is legal should be available. And so banning books is not a good idea. It's our First Amendment right to have access to them. And I'm not sure that, I mean, I think we need to respect and provide books that focus on LGBTQ issues and racism so that we have information about both sides of those kinds of subjects. So I think those kinds of books are also really valuable and we need them. And I think that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jeanine. Now, so this last question, Jeanine's going to go first and then followed by Ciaran. And similar to what you saw when we had the school committee, if you want in the course of your response, you can respond to the questions. And then if you want to make a final statement also, because this will be your last chance to be able to speak during the forum, you can do that. Okay. But it's your choice. Okay. So the questions are, how would you make the library a more inclusive place for all residents? And what's your experience promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay.
All right.
So I think how you'd make the library a more inclusive place, I think my suggestion to find a way to be out in the community, talking to the residents, finding out what they're interested in, finding out what their opinions are, telling us, when I was collecting signatures, people told me they voted against the expansion. They voted for the expansion. And then they told me why. And then they told me what they wanted. And it seems like that's the information we really, really need. And then in terms of making it more inclusive, if we have residents with many different languages, maybe we need to think of whether we have interpretive services. I'm not familiar enough yet with that I can really answer that, but I work with many people who don't speak the same language I do, and I have to use translation interpreter services for it. And diversity, well, I mean, if we learn about the people in the community and what's important to them, then, and we find a way to include what they're suggesting to us in our services or offerings at the library, it seems to me that that might help with inclusion and diversity. Because we certainly want every single person in town to feel comfortable here. I loved I'm gonna forget the man's name, the first man who talked about having the courses in town for how the town works. Because I'm just learning that now too. I've lived here a long time, but I didn't participate. And I'm really interested in learning more. So I think offering opportunities for people to learn more about everything that's happening and including their ideas might work.
All right, thank you. And now, Ciaran, you have 2 minutes, and when you're ready.
First question is, how would you make the library a more inclusive place for all residents? Well, one way would be to have people of different cultures or genders or whatever come in and you know, speak from the heart about their experiences. I think Westborough Connects had a speaker that did just that, you know, 6 months ago. What is your experience in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, I've never been a teacher, and I've never been a manager, and I haven't wanted to. I work in a group right now. There are 4 of us, and I'm the only, you know, European person in the group. The other 3 are from India. I've worked with pretty well most of the races I can think of, or countries I can think of. I don't like the word race. Russia, Poland, Vietnam, Korea, Colombia, Cambodia. You know, it's a very, very diverse place. And the most important thing we need to do is something that Paula said. We need to excel in education, because the library is really about 2 things, community and education. And so what we need to do is to make sure that our students, what every parent wants, is their student is armed when they go out in the world. That's the most important thing. And I'll get up my time.
All right. Well, listen, thank you to both of you. We appreciate your comments. And now we're going to go to the second part of our library trustee forum. So we have 4 candidates for 3 seats, and I'm going to invite those candidates to turn their cameras on. This is for a 3-year term for each seat. So 4 candidates for 3 seats. These are separate from the other library positions we just covered. Everyone's on the ballot, and we have 4 candidates. Deborah Cushman, who's an incumbent, Michael Karp, Dorothy Mello, who's also an incumbent, and Julia Rissmiller. So each candidate will have an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes, and we're going to go, the order we're going to go is Mike, Julia, Dot, and then Deb. So Mike, I'm going to invite you to go first for 2 minutes, then Julia, then Dot, then Deb. And you've seen the questions, but I'm going to post the questions again in the chat so you can have a look at them when we go to that order. And I'll go over the order. Dot, we'll go with Dot, Deb, Mike, and Julia, but I'm afraid I'm going to confuse everybody if I go through it all together. So we'll go Mike, Julia, Dot, and Deb right now for the opening statements. I've said too much. Mike, when you're ready.
Just enough. Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Karp. I'm a candidate for library trustee. I've lived in Westborough since my wife and I moved here in 2001. In the course of our marriage, my wife and I moved around quite a bit for schooling. We lived in 5 states, also was in a couple of foreign countries, France and Turkey. Westborough provides many opportunities that when it was time to downsize, I wanted to take advantage of. We chose to stay here because we'd come to really enjoy and love the town. For me, the opportunity that was particularly enticing was the chance to go back to teaching. I had a chance to 3 years as a sub in several of the Westborough schools. I spent most of my time working with kids in the given school, often supporting the staff that work with the special ed students. I have degrees from Franklin and Marshall and Brandeis with lots of additional graduate study, including significant time at Harvard, Penn, and Colorado Tech. My professional work includes 10 years as both a teacher in the Commonwealth's smallest rural school district, the nearby town of Douglas, and as head of the English department at a very large urban high school in Chelsea, Massachusetts. I followed this with almost 40 years in the computer industry as a developer, marketer, and industry analyst. I traveled a lot, published a lot, and had a set of experiences that gave me a chance to work with people from a wide variety of backgrounds. I'm not trying to cut my own time short, but shouldn't there be a timer?
Yes, I just sent that in the chat, but I had it going on my phone. So you've got about 12 seconds if you want to fit. If you have anything else you want to say.
12 seconds? I'm hoping that was a joke.
It was a joke.
Thank you. Very funny. Let's see. In retirement, I had planned on focusing on ways that education, business, and government can work together to identify and achieve common goals. As it will not surprise anybody, as a student and then as a teacher, I've spent a lot of time in libraries. I know libraries have always stored books, but it's important to note that ours has always done quite a bit more. It provides a study space for kids outside of school hours. It offers quiet places with limited distractions for study, tutoring, and doing homework. It brings materials out to homes and to facilities where learners of all ages can have greater access to them. It can do tech training to open access to technology for folks who at present don't use it well. And it's a space where seniors can relax and read, where kids can learn to read, where adults can do job searches, where everyone can access the expertise of librarians. And importantly, while all this is going on, it's a place that's monitored and safe. And did I just run out of time?
Just finish your thought.
Okay, all these issues deserve to be continued, but our outreach to our community, I think, is going to be a major source of interest going forward with the library.
All right, thank you, Mike. I appreciate your patience with the timer mistake there also. Julia, when you're ready, we'll begin.
Sure. So hello, everyone. I'm Julia Rissmiller, and I am running for a 3-year seat on the Library Board of Trustees. And I would like to thank the Democratic Town Committee for hosting this forum and everyone attending this forum for your interest in this important town election. I live here in Westborough with my 2 school-age children, and I'm running for the trustee seat because I'm interested in serving our community. I have particular interest in increasing usage of the library and seeking feedback from residents who have not visited the library recently or who have not participated in library programming. I'm also committed to advocating for those who cannot vote on town matters, such as young children or people who are not able to vote because of citizenship status, and also those who are not able to access the library due to other barriers, such as language or physical barriers. One issue facing the Westborough Public Library that I would really like to highlight is the treatment of the staff. Unfortunately, the staff have been on the receiving end of rude comments and even harassment by patrons. It is critically important for everyone in town to be aware of this issue and understand that disrespectful or harassing behavior towards the staff will not be tolerated. We're really fortunate to have such an outstanding staff, and we cannot have a library if they're not treated respectfully and appropriately. I am prepared to devote the time and effort to serve our community as a library trustee. If elected, I see my role as a team player who will work with the other trustees and collaborate with town committees and organizations to continue to provide services for all residents of Westborough and to increase awareness and usage of the library. I would like to conclude by reading the first sentence of the Freedom to Read statement, which was originally issued in 1953 and is so relevant today. It states, "The freedom to read is essential to our democracy." I hope you consider voting for me in the upcoming election on March 14th, and you can also vote in person at Town Hall this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to go to Dot next. So Dot, when you're ready.
Thank you. I've been a teacher in the system in Westborough in many roles for most of my professional life. I've spent most of my adult life living here in Westborough and participating in community activities. We've raised our children here and maintained a residence, and I try to contribute to activities that make the town a better place. I'm running for the post of library trustee to continue the ongoing work of preserving and enhancing our historic library and its programs. As a teacher, my passion for literature drew me to the job. But I soon realized that there's so much more to the library with museum passes, CDs and DVDs, magazines, both paper and digital, and a room of things that really draws quite a few people with items that you can borrow that you might not want to just buy yourself at first. Sewing machine, a telescope, tools, yard games, lots more. Go look, there might be something new this week. The library makes the internet available to all for free. And at the library, we're happiest when we see our materials going out with patrons, both young, mature, and in the middle. For the future of the library, we do need to support the professional staff that plan our programs and oversee the well-being of children who come and other patrons. We need the expertise of our director and assistant director to plan the budget and secure funding to enhance our local financial resources and maintain the integrity of our historic structure. With the help of our tech staff, our digital technology is kept current and available to all patrons. We hope to maintain the building and make the repairs that are necessary to it to maintain.
Can you finish your last thought, please?
And the ADA compliance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now, Deborah, when you're ready, you can go.
Hi, my name is Deb Cushman, and I have served for the past 2 years as library trustee. I moved to Westborough 7 years ago with my husband and 2 children. We are a family of readers, and when we first moved to town, the library was one of our first stops. I was happy to find such a welcoming place in the heart of our new community and to leave with a tall stack of books. I've spent over 17 years as a school psychologist supporting children and their families. My work has helped me develop skills needed as a trustee, including addressing individual and institutional concerns, budgeting, participating in strategic planning, working to meet federal and state requirements, and engaging with members of the community. Guiding me has always been my belief in serving others. I've always been a lover of books, but the 21st century library is much more than books. It is a hub of our community. I've seen firsthand how the library works to meet the diverse needs of community members and bring people together. Whether it is participating in teen events, finding a quiet study space, enjoying a family movie night, or accessing tech support, there's something for everyone. As our community and our world continue to change and grow, I want to ensure that our library is ready to meet the needs and wants of all of Westborough. When people think of the library, they often think of calm and quiet. While the Westborough Library is often these things, my 2 years as a trustee have been anything but calm and quiet. I've helped see our library through a pandemic and worked towards a major renovation and expansion that was passionately debated and ultimately defeated at town meeting. Now the trustees are working to identify the necessary repairs for our beloved but aging building. On a smaller scale, I've helped review and update library policies and directly support the programs that engage our community members. It has been 2 years of talking, listening, and learning. If I'm reelected as library trustee, I will continue this important work to give Westborough the library it needs and deserves. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we're now going to go to our questions. And the order of the respondents will be Dot, Deb, Mike, and then Julia. You'll have 2 minutes each to respond to the questions. And they've been put into the chat. I just sent them just a second ago also. So how would you protect access to information at a time when some library collections are being censored? What types of books should be available? Should certain books be removed or banned? Should books and materials focusing on LGBTQ+ issues or racism receive special protection? Why or why not? So we'll start with Dot and then Dot, Deb, Mike, and Julia. Dot, when you're ready.
Our collection has been challenged at other times in the past, not just about racism or sexuality, but in art, for example. Excuse me a minute. Please, it's noisy. The background. I'm sorry, background noise. You asked about protecting the collection. A lot of discussion has ensued before this about everyone having opportunities, equal opportunities. And we would do this with our collection of books. We wouldn't want to say that one book is less or more worthy than another, because then we might be saying that one group is more worthy or less worthy than another. So everybody needs to be able to find books that have issues, characters, people like themselves.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Deb. Deb, when you're ready, please welcome you. Welcome to respond.
I want to echo a lot of what Dot said. I very much believe in intellectual freedom. This is a value, a personal value of mine. It's a value of our library. Library patrons should have a right to access variety of books and materials that have perspectives, a variety of perspectives on any given issue. I'm not in favor of banning books or materials. There is a process in place. There are library policies in place if people have concerns about materials, so that they can be reviewed by the library director and then library trustees to make sure that they are up to the standards of the library development collection policy, to make sure that they are in line with the development policy to allow this variety of perspectives, but still make sure, of course, that they're things like factually accurate, but we want that intellectual freedom. We want people to have that variety of perspectives. No books should receive special protection. We know that certain issues are controversial, although I don't think they should be in today's society, but for some reason they are. And that's why we have these policies in place, so that all materials will be protected. But let's maintain that intellectual freedom in our town, and hopefully our society. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Mike, we welcome your comments, your responses when you're ready. Mike, turn your mic on. Your microphone on. We can't hear you.
Just, as I said at a different group earlier in the week, I tend to be driven in much of my decision making by a sense of reciprocity. In this case, what that means specifically is that you don't have a right to tell me how my children should be raised. And quite frankly, I don't have a right to tell you how your children should be raised. As that applies to the library, it's essentially a case of the fact that no one who goes into a library is forced to read anything. We hope they do, but they don't have. They certainly don't have to. If a parent finds that someone has gone into a library and written something that they or read something that they disagree with, then by all means, this is an opportunity for some great parenting. Sit down with the reader, discuss the issue, and come to a culturally or a family appropriate decision in the course of that discussion. Libraries are there to be a receptacle for both knowledge and opinion, and those who want to partake of the knowledge or the opinion should have access to what we have. Looking at the most unfortunate side of this, I think of the countries that have a history of banning literature. Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union, Al-Qaeda in Mali. They burned the oldest library in the African continent. The Taliban in Afghanistan, North Korea. All of these groups have tried to limit access to knowledge. It doesn't work, but we can't let that happen here. And I will stand foursquare against that.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to move to the second question. And the order will go in.
I don't think I've gone.
Julie, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Julie. No,
okay.
Sorry. You know what?
That's okay.
I put an
okay.
X through it because I circled it. Sorry, my
Fine.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just I didn't want it to come back and forward and stuff.
No,
but,
no worries.
But I really want to echo what Deb and Dot and Mike have already said. There's really no place for censorship in the public library. The American Library Association has a lot of information on their website, including the Library Bill of Rights, which basically ensures access to information and books and reading material for everyone. I did want to bring up though that I know Ciaran said, well, we live in a liberal state, Massachusetts, and it's really not an issue, but actually that's not true at all. There certainly are organizations that are, and far right organizations that are working to censor material that is available in libraries, school libraries and public libraries. And I know that fortunately the Westborough Public Library has a really strong policy if it is brought up that someone is opposed to some material in the library. But basically, as Deb said, I believe in intellectual freedom, and that's what libraries are for, really, for everybody.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I went to
It's fine.
a moment ago. Sorry about that. So we're gonna move to the second question, and when we respond, it'll be Deb, then Mike, Julia, and then Dot. So you'll have 2 minutes to respond. Remember now, this is the last time you'll have a chance to speak in the forum. So if you also want to incorporate a closing statement, you're welcome to do that too. So the questions are these: how would you make the library a more inclusive place for all residents? And what's your experience promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion? So we're going to start with Deb, and I welcome you to respond when you're ready.
Okay, well, in terms of promoting, making the library a more inclusive place, I think there's a lot that can be done in terms of partnering with different groups around town. It has to do with talking and listening to all sorts of populations around town. When we're talking about inclusion, it has to do with looking at different age groups around town, different cultural groups around town, different learning populations, different religious groups around town. There's so many different groups we could be talking about when we're talking about inclusion. And it has to do with looking at the materials in the library. Who created them? Who are they showing? Who are they talking about? What language are they using? What is the message that they're sending? So really looking at our materials in the library. We have a lot of repairs that are going to be needed in our library. Our original building is over 100 years old and our addition is over 40 years old. So we know that there are going to be some repairs that are needed. So really looking at our ADA compliance and making sure that our building is physically accessible to all our residents. So there are a lot of ways to make sure that the building is physically inclusive for everyone. And I have a lot of experience with promoting inclusion and promoting diversity and equity and inclusion. In my job as a school psychologist, this is really what I do. I work in an integrated school where I spend my day working with a diverse population of families who speak many languages, culturally diverse. The learning needs of children are diverse. The socioeconomic status of our families is incredibly diverse. So this is really what I want to do. We work together in my work to create
Finish your thought, please.
And I want to do the same in Westborough with our library. Bring us all together. This is our community hub.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to stop. We're over time.
Thank you.
All right, Julia, when you're ready.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was unmuted. In terms of how to make the library a more inclusive place for all residents, I think so. I always like to really reach out to people throughout the community and different organizations and different groups, as was really well spoken by Jakub and Sarah in the school committee just questions. We have a very diverse town. I didn't realize that 51% of the student population is non-white, which I thought was really interesting. So I think, I mean, there are a lot of ways to do it. I think in particular for me, one focus would be on the non-English speaking population and also the non-citizen population, because I feel like we focus a lot on people voting at town meeting, and if you're not a citizen, you can't vote. So I think reaching out to the different organizations and different communities in Westborough, it would be one way to do it. In terms of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, my experience is really more on a personal level. I haven't done it on the organizational level. I work in medicine, so I work with people of all different backgrounds, and I realize that it's really important to reach out to different communities and different people to make sure that they have access to everything that the library can provide and the services. So I do think it will involve outreach, and I think these are also really important questions. And I just wanted to, in my last few seconds, just say thank you to everyone for organizing this forum, and for everyone watching, and just really encourage everyone to vote on March 14th or this week at Town Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, we welcome you when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Regarding making the library more inclusive, we have a number of programs already in place that are working on this. I would urge the library trustees to continue the policy of outreach to the, for example, the incoming Indian population, but all people who are new to the town. We even have out near where I live now a new state-sponsored facility for the homeless, and they must be included as well. As to my experience in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, I grew up in a town that was bilingual, a town that was 40% French Canadian. When I went off to college, I worked in, this was in the early and mid 60s, worked in voter registration. When I became a teacher, it was in Chelsea, a town that was constantly in flux in terms of its population, but the mix was varied and interesting, and everybody made a contribution. In terms of when I went on with my career, spent an enormous amount of time working with international clients. I appreciate the value that diversity brings to the table. And I'd just like to close by, I remember when I first moved here, when I was younger, I used to do a lot of running. And there was a time about 6 or 7 years ago when I would run past a lot of green, blue, and yellow signs that in Spanish, English, and Arabic said, no matter where you're from, we're glad you're a neighbor. I've carried that with me ever since. And it's something I firmly believe in, and it's something I would work to improve upon.
Thank you, Mike. And now, Dot, when you're ready, we welcome your responses to these questions. Dot, your mic is not on. We cannot hear you.
There, am I back?
There you go. We can hear you now.
All righty.
When you're ready.
Okay, at the expense of sounding complacent, I think we're doing a very good job at trying to be inclusive, at trying to provide materials in many languages. I'm always hyping, go to Wowbrary on the library site every Wednesday when the new books are listed. And sometimes you'll find there's a lot of adult books. Some weeks it's a lot of kiddie books. And when the kid books are showing, there are a lot of books in many different languages, not just English and Spanish. There are other books, and trying to hit all the ELL population that is in the schools. I think the children's librarian really reaches out to the other librarians in the schools. So we have a cooperative effort here to see what we need so that we're addressing the needs of the kids. And our interlibrary loan system is a good way. If you want a book and we don't have it, you can request it through the CW Mars system, and it just might be in another language. So without going to a lot more expense, we can support the diverse population that was spoken of quite extensively earlier. And we do need to make sure that we have money set aside for this. We shouldn't cut it back, but we do try our best to acknowledge through the different clubs, groups, and speakers that come to the library. I would like to continue my work as a trustee. I've been on the board since 2008. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your effort in putting this together.
All right, everyone. Well, I thank all those candidates for the library board of trustees. This is going to conclude our candidates forum for 2023. We want to thank all of the candidates for putting themselves forward to serve our community. I'm going to ask all the people who are working behind the scenes to turn their cameras on so you can see them all, so we can thank them also. So if you could take a moment and they can just give a wave and thank everyone. And we also want to thank Westborough TV. And most importantly, we want to thank all of the viewers for giving your attention to the candidates. Viewers, we have one last task for you, and that is to vote. Please vote on Tuesday, March 14th. And as you heard mentioned by a few candidates, you can also vote at the town clerk's office. The polls are open at Westborough High from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, that's Tuesday, March 14th. For the Westborough Democratic Town Committee, I'm Nick Argento, and I thank you for watching, and I wish you a good night.